Hey, welcome back. In the previous video, I showed you how to create groups in Exchange Server 2016. And indeed, you can see the groups that we've created up on screen right now. We created a finance group, an IT group, and a marketing group. And if you look at the group type column, you can see that all of these groups are of different types. We created a distribution group, a dynamic distribution group, and a security group. So Exchange Server is very flexible in terms of group creation. But one of the questions that sometimes comes up is whether there might be a mechanism for ensuring consistency among group names. So such a mechanism does exist. It's called a group naming policy. And in this video, I want to show you how to create such a policy. So the way that we would go about doing that is to open the Exchange Admin Center and click on the Recipients tab, which we have, and then click on Groups, which Groups is already selected here. And then you'll notice that there's a row of icons right here. Well, the last icon on the right is the More icon. And if I click this, it's going to pop up a menu. And the third option down is Configure Group Naming Policy. So I'm going to click this and it's going to open up another browser window. And you can see that the Group Naming Policy window contains two different tabs. The bottom tab is Blocked Words. This is where you would go if there were certain words that you didn't want users to be able to use within a group name. So if you wanted to add a word to the list, you would simply come down here and type that word, whatever it might be, and then click the plus sign. Now, the bulk of the group naming policy is under the General tab. And what this tab does is it allows you to take text and use it as a group name prefix or a suffix or both. So if you look down here, you can see a group naming policy section. And then just below that, we have for the prefix, apply the following sequence. And then we have a select one drop-down list. And if we open up this drop-down list, we have two options. We have attribute and text. So if I choose attribute, then the select an attribute box pops up. And we can choose what type of attribute we want to add. So maybe we want to add a city or a company name or a country code or something like that. Just something to help standardize the group naming process. I'm just going to click on city so that you can see how this works, and I'm going to click OK. And you can see that we now have city just to the right of the group naming policy. And if I click on this, it's going to open up that same box again, and I could pick a different attribute if I wanted to. I'm just going to go with city. Now, the other option was to add text, and that's exactly what it sounds like. You just type the text that you want to add as a prefix or a suffix. To show you how this works, I'll add it as a suffix. So right here we have a section. For the suffix, apply the following sequence. And if I click the down arrow, we have the same options, attribute or text. So I'll choose text. And now I see a dialog box asking me to enter text. Now, one pointer is that whenever you type text, there's nothing that's going to separate the text that you type from the group name. So a lot of times people like to use an underscore character or something like that just to kind of separate the prefix or suffix from the rest of the group name. So I'll enter underscore and then posy as the suffix, and I'll click OK. Now take a look down here at the preview of the policy. Groups created by users must use the following naming format: city, group name, and then posy. So this shows what the group names are going to look like once that policy has been applied. Now pay attention to the wording here because this is important. Groups created by users must use the following naming format. So the group naming policy that you create doesn't apply to administrators or to anyone with administrative privileges. This only applies to groups created by users. So to save this group naming policy, I have to come down here and click Save. The Save button's kind of off on its own, and it's easy to forget to do that, but you've got to click Save if you want this policy to be saved. And we're taken back here. Now, just to illustrate the fact that this doesn't affect administrators, I'm going to create a group. I'll just click the plus sign here, and I'll create a distribution group. And I'm not going to worry about entering too many options. I'm just going to make this quick and dirty. I'll type MGMT, short for management. And I'm not going to worry about it entering any notes or adding any owners or members. I'll just click Save. And you'll notice that the display name is exactly what we typed in. The group naming policy didn't force a naming change on me because I am an administrator. You can see in the upper right that I'm logged in as administrator. So how do we know if this policy is in effect? Well, let me switch over to my Exchange server and I'll show you. Okay, so here I am on Exchange server and I've got the Exchange Management shell open. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type get dash organization config and then the pipe symbol and FL, that's format list, and then distribution group naming policy, and press enter. And we can see the distribution group naming policy is city group name underscore Posey. So that's what the group names are going to look like as a result of this policy being applied. So that's how you go about creating a distribution group naming policy in Exchange Server 2016.